So I know most people in the room are familiar with the Marketing Cloud. We've had both Marketing Cloud and Data Cloud leaders on stage at our events over the years.
Right.
May not be as familiar with CX Cloud. So first I just wanted to kind of set the stage as far as what is it? And,
sure. So first, we don't call it CX Cloud anymore.
Sorry.
No, it's changing with our rebranding. We're all cloud now. We're just referring to it as our CX family of products. So the organizing thought behind this was really in response to a phenomenon we see happening, which is what we call the experience economy. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it was this idea that the worlds of sales, service, marketing, commerce, content are increasingly coming together around the end experience, and that experience changes all the time, so you can't have distinct silos either in large companies that are trying to solve this or in the software that we're building. So we approach it with the perspective that we need one holistic strategy, and that was originally what attracted me to Oracle was, there's an opportunity to innovate at a much faster pace if you can do it with a common platform approach across all these different touch points. And the theory we really adopted was you got to empower whoever gets to the customer first. It doesn't matter if it's a customer service person, if it's a marketer, if it's a salesperson, a contact center agent. And so now we've developed this is basically a business that is focused on all the front office applications, competing with the traditional people in front office applications like Salesforce and my alma mater, Adobe.
Yep.
And the approach is just to figure out how we take Oracle's distinct advantage in this area, and we can talk about that a little bit too, and really bring that to bear in one unified platform. And by the way, it's not just front office, it's connecting all that front office capability with the back office.
Great. Let's combine a couple things. So you mentioned the experience economy, and that's actually, we're hearing the word experience being used more and more across the industry. And I know those of us that have been marketing for so long, the marketing practice has been run in such a siloed environment with different systems and pretty disconnected experiences. So I'd love to hear how you're thinking about the experience economy and the impacts on consumers. Let's also combine that with one of your announcements last year, and I believe GA this year, is CX Unity. I think this all kind of goes together, which sounds like a CDP, and kind of pulling together experiences. I'd love to kind of combine those two things.
Sure.
And hear your views on that.
So first, experience economy. When I joined a little over a year ago, one of the things we realized, for those of you who've been following Oracle, we've done a lot of great acquisitions, and we've covered a lot of ground across a lot of areas, but we hadn't yet taken advantage of the opportunity to define where we thought the market was going in CX. And the experience economy starts with three views that really, I think it's important for people that are partnering with us or to understand, we're very mission driven and it's about a belief structure. And our belief is there's three things that are driving CX today. The first is that the experience is more important than the product itself. We see that kind of research all the time. Companies today gain customers or lose customers based on what that interaction is like. It doesn't matter, products are increasingly becoming commoditized and people are remembering and promoting and amplifying experience. That's one. So I still, believe it or not, talk to large brands who say, well, CX, is there a quantitative way I can think about the investment? And that's a short meeting for me at my choice. Because if you don't know that as a brand right now, you're obviously going to be out of business. The second is that the nonlinear nature of journeys. We all know that journey orchestration is a big buzzword today, and to us, nonlinear means that you have to think about data much differently when you're orchestrating the experience. And the final thing is that when you think about on-ramps to an experience, the customer is now the innovator, not the company. And we really learned that when we were doing projects for people like Kubota tractors, right? A Japanese, I don't know if you know this, but they're one of the largest tractor manufacturers for farmers in Iowa, and they're in Japan. And one of the things they invented was they said, how are we going to do remote service in a way that really differentiates? So they used augmented reality to basically create this co-maintenance environment where an engineer or a technician in Iowa could work with an engineer in Japan and really figure out how to perform maintenance operations in ways that none of their competitors could. So nobody anticipated that Kubota was going to try to do that, or that that was going to be a need. But as a software provider, you really have to know that the customers are driving the innovation and their end customers are driving their innovation. So those are the three big things. Now, how this ties to CDPs. We don't think of CX Unity as a CDP, and I'll tell you why. But it also ties into, why does Oracle think we can win in CX? There are obviously a few people that are out ahead of us in certain areas, namely Salesforce in sales applications. But I've been in CX a long time, and every 5 or 10 years, the playing field changes dramatically, and I think we're right in the middle of one of those changes. And that is that CX is now about data. It's not about applications. It's not about pretty UIs. It's not about having consumerization of IT. It's about, can you orchestrate data at the point where you need it most and be able to develop schemas for applications so they can consume it. So how does a marketing application consume a real-time signal that can not only look at marketing, but can look across the entire organization, front to back office? I want to know things about the customer's purchasing history. I want to know about their service escalations. I want to know about their campaign activity. And if I can bring that together in a way that the application can consume it, that's a data problem. And Oracle's been 40 years in the data business. So our view is that the experience economy is creating this opportunity for a new brand of CX, and that's one that Oracle is uniquely equipped to provide. So that's how we think about it.
Great. And so bringing together all the data in one place. There's also in that industry a lot of discussion around decisioning, orchestration, around machine learning, AI, et cetera. It seems like there's a lot of investment coming in the industry. How do you guys think about that aspect, meaning kind of the intelligence on top of the data?
Yeah, so that's one of the big differentiators. We don't, unlike some of our competitors, we don't think about AI and machine learning as a separate thing, a separate independent service that you overlay onto the application.
Yep.
It's built from the ground up into all our applications. And a lot of that is because at Oracle, we have huge data sets to work with. If you think about how we use machine learning in the back office for ERP, we're hosting the world's largest transactions. And so we have these huge data sets, which is really the key to refine and really make world-class your algorithms around that. We hire a lot of developers who are focused on building those scenarios from the ground up. In HCM, in our HR, we do the same thing. And in the front office, we were doing send time optimization, a lot of this stuff way before it was kind of in vogue to be doing that, because we had teams in our different development centers that were working on this. So the first approach we take is everything is machine learning driven from the ground up. That's why we haven't called our thing Einstein or Sensei or anything like that. It's natively a part of the application. That's sort of one. And I think the second thing is that we believe that if you can tie together more of the touch points between the front and back office, you're really going to get automation in the way that you need it. So for example, we want to build sales applications that aren't for sales managers to audit their sales reps, but are for making sales reps more productive by being prescriptive about how to take 80 manual steps or 50 manual steps, whatever the typical thing is in enterprise sales, and reduce that down to a couple of machine learn-driven automated flows. And to do that, you really have to have an appreciation for all of the things you need to know to orchestrate a sales cycle, from configuring a quote to checking credit to knowing how's that company that I'm giving a quote to performing. So firmographic data that ties in. All of these touch points tie into that end experience, and to have machine learning as a real advantage, you have to be able to do that in a much broader way than a lot of companies are thinking about it.
Great. Want to move to some competitive dynamics. So on the private company side, you have guys like Neeraj Agarwal, arguably one of the most successful MarTech investors has always argued that marketers will always go for incremental lift. And with that kind of philosophy, they will always adopt a best-of-breed approach across all channels. And he's been very successful as an investor. But then there's like the big enterprise software companies like, you know what? You don't want to have to stitch all that together. We can bring, you know, all of these together, pre-integrated, et cetera. Love to hear, I think I know it'll be, but love to hear your view and the way that
You'll expect me to say you don't have to make that choice with Oracle, right? Because you get both best of breed and integrated platform. That's the infomercial, sorry. Truth is, you always have to have a great application, and increasingly, we think being best of breed really means that you are thinking about scenarios a lot more in an end-to-end fashion. In fact, the definition of best of breed has changed from do you do feature X, Y, and Z to are you connected to the rest of my organization? Because when I talk to C-level executives, probably like many of the CEOs in the room, a lot of it's about the battle internally. Like, how do I get my system integrated with what my colleagues are doing? How do I break down silos so I can more effectively run my campaigns or tie marketing events to service events? And so the conversations that we're having, again, are a lot more about data orchestration. And yes, there's a minimal kind of feature set. You need to be in the top part of the Gartner and Forrester quadrants. And we're always number one or tied for number one in all those quadrants. That's important. But once you get, I think that's sort of permission to be at the table. Once you get beyond that, then it's really about, okay, what's your enterprise strategy? Because I need to enlist you to help me solve bigger problems than just what I have in my particular departmental set of features. I'll give you a great example. I was with the CIO of one of the largest ATM manufacturers in the world the other day. And their real question is, we have all these field tech agents that are out there, and we need to know when we're optimizing a customer experience for a bank, which of my customers are within their SLAs and which of them are outside of their SLAs? And how do I, in the split-second moment when the field tech gets 2 requests to go service, how do I instrument my application so I know how to drive the right decision from the tech? Okay, well, is that a field service problem? Is that a back-end warranty, service levels, service cloud problem? Is that a CRM problem? Like, it's all of them. And so even though he was the buyer of a field service solution, he needed to solve this broader cross-organization. So it was both a best of breed and a common platform problem. Increasingly, and maybe it's self-serving because we're talking a platform story, but increasingly with marketers, with field service people, with salespeople, that's the conversation we're having.
Great. So I want to move kind of from operations to strategy and M&A.
Cool.
So Rob and I got to know each other. So Rob, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were running, I think we called it DESBU, Digital Enterprise Software Business Unit.
Yeah, it was every product that was in the enterprise world of Adobe before we bought Omniture.
Yeah. So anyway, Adobe bought us at Omniture. Rob reached out to me, Rob and a guy named Byron Barty, who just joined Medallia in Corp Dev, and said, we want to buy a content management company. And before Omniture, I ran Corp Dev at Interwoven, one of the leading content management vendors. And they took me through the strategy, and also the one we want to buy is Day Software. Day Software was literally the only enterprise content management vendor that had just re-platformed. Everybody else had pretty old platforms, including where I came from. It was an easy conversation. I said, that's the right one, yes. And arguably, that's been the most successful acquisition that Adobe has done. If you look at where they are now with Adobe Experience Manager, dominate that category. So congratulations on arming Adobe with that.
I resent it every day.
But want to hear kind of just how do you approach developing strategy and target selection?
Yeah, so well, I'll say it was done differently at Adobe, which I won't comment on, than we do it at Oracle. And I think you kind of highlighted that. There were a bunch of gaps in Adobe's portfolio that just, it was sort of logical how those were going to be filled if they wanted to be more full service in the enterprise. At Oracle, we have a lot of products. We have 140,000 employees. I'm 16 months in, I'm still learning about what products we have. Literally, I will have a meeting and someone will say, we already do that. And we have a $100 million business in that. It's like, wow. I mean, when will that cycle stop, right? Yeah. There's just a lot going on inside of Oracle. So the first thing we look at is, does it align with our priority set? And so in CX, our priority set is the future of CX is about data-driven applications that are cross-platform, that are cross-silo, that are beyond just marketing, beyond just service, beyond just sales. So if somebody comes into me and says, I have a great new way to optimize this little process, which may be still a big TAM in their mind, it's not a big enough opportunity for us. Think about a $40 billion business. We have to imagine that every acquisition we do can be part of a $1 billion plus business relatively quickly. So first is kind of, we look at it in terms of size of the opportunity. The other is, I'm shocked, and as a former corp dev guy myself, you probably share this, how many companies come in and say, well, I think it would be great because we could put this product in the hands of Oracle's sales force and like imagine what they could do with it. It's like, well, yeah, it took 40 years to develop this sales force, but the key is like, how does that product set integrate with our own organic stuff that we built? Because it's easier to write code than write checks, as Larry likes to say. So, we want to make sure that it aligns with something that's strategic with what we're doing. So if people have a strong conviction on that, on anything for Oracle, please see me right when I get off the stage. But that's really is understanding our strategy and where we're going with the various components of it and making sure that it ties into Oracle's narrative around what the future is.
You just touched on this, and one of the things we hear all the time, from boards especially is, my company is a perfect fit for Oracle, for Google, for AT&T, whoever it is. And a common response I give is, I'm not going to disagree with you. Actually, I see exactly where you plug in. It's more a matter of prioritization. There's dozens of areas or more that you could go into. How, at a whole, you mentioned this, how broad your business is. How do you go through that prioritization process?
Well, we obviously have a roadmap of what we want to do, and we're coming to conferences like this and trying to meet people who are doing interesting things. We have one of the head of our marketing for CX is on your CDP panel today in that discussion. So we're watching and trying to track everything that's going on. To say that there's anything that people are doing that a team hasn't tried at Oracle is a naive point of view. Like, we've probably tried everything, but if you've gotten traction, a lot of times what we will do is wait to see that a business gets to critical mass, right? Because we'd rather pick something that we know can be a long-term part of our long-term strategy than crown a winner early in the process. Now, that's sort of one end of the spectrum. The other side of it is, if something's early enough and the architecture is really well thought through, then we will buy it, like we did CrowdTwist is a good example in loyalty. Not a company that's been around for an exceptionally long time, has a good customer base, but what we were most excited about was the way they built the product. And I would say this is true for Oracle, and we're an engineering-driven company. I mean, Larry Ellison, every week, sometimes multiple times a week, reviews the product architecture with me of each of our products. I mean, that's amazing. Super engaged. And if you've taken shortcuts on how you've built your product, don't come to us, because our tech guys will reject it. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at all the time about long-term sustainable architectures. We have 400,000 customers. We need things to scale. So that's kind of a little bit about how we think about it.
Great. So since there's a lot of companies in the space here that probably either are partnering or would like to partner, any last closing comments on, you mentioned, hey, you can come up to me with your ideas, but best ways to possibly approach or work with Oracle about partnerships?
How many people here are on the MarTech side versus AdTech? I know it's a MarTech conversation. Anyone here on the AdTech side? A few? Yes. Okay, good. So this comment kind of applies to you. So one of the things we've done, I'm also responsible for the Oracle Data Cloud now. One of the reasons for that is obviously this convergence we all seeing happening between MarTech and AdTech. For folks that see a way to kind of influence and extend our strategy in that area, we're particularly interested in talking to those people because we see a huge opportunity here. We're integrating CX Unity, our CDP, into our Blue Kai DMP so that we can have better visibility across unknown and known.
Yep.
We are using that data not only to improve advertising effectiveness, but we're also using it to power a lot more of the CX application experience. That's a key area for us. And for people who are thinking ahead in that area, not just in ad tech, not just in MarTech, but thinking about how those worlds come together, that's particularly interesting to us. Another thing we're doing is thinking a lot about real time and real-time activation of applications. So our view, McKinsey came out with this report that we're moving from the segment economy to the signal economy. We really believe that. We think real-time signals and orchestrating real-time signals in applications is the future. If you have interesting technology around that, we'd love to talk to you. And I think the last thing would be if you're an engineering-focused company, if you're a technical founder, CEO, and your teams have a mission that they think they can better achieve with a broader platform, but they want to stay and do that mission at a company that has probably the most incredible customer base in the world, come talk to us. Because one of the things we are proud of is we retain a lot of our technical leaders for years to come. I mean, if I think about the ODC business, Kurt Kratchman, who is the COO of GrapeShot, is leading some of the core products there. Michelle Hull's leading a big part of that organization. We just brought in Molly Spillman, who's leading all our go-to-market. We have great retention of long-term technical and product management-oriented founders. And so if people want to do that, they should come talk to us.
Excellent. All right.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.